How one New York City school is challenging DEI dogma is shaping the leaders of tomorrow. So this is another one of those schools. You see them across the West where the people who are already, and this is what I talk about, these micro socialistic networks that these folks love. And that so many white people especially who are anti-Jew, they're like, oh, well, we just got to get rid of this entire group of people. Not even, thanks for your wish listing, pussy, child, infant. Thanks for your wish listing. That ain't going to happen. So we just got to get rid of them and then everything will be fine. Except these micro socialistic groups will persist in the West, and you will continue to be harmed as a consequence. And then what are you going to say? Should have listened to Jason. It'll be too late. So this is another one of those schools that people in these micro socialistic networks, they send their kids, and then their kids go from these elite high schools. They go from the elite high schools onto the elite colleges, where they then get hired 6-7 figures to be our bosses, our governors, etc. How are they going to handle it? How do you think? The re-election of Donald Trump has left many progressives, anti-whites, worried, and this is New York Post. You know what I haven't heard more than ever in my life is, since Donald Trump won, conservative content creators, platforms using the word woke like there is no tomorrow. Ain't no tomorrow. You got to say it all that you can say it today. Was there some kind of an order put out? The re-election of Donald Trump has left many anti-whites worried about the future of diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI programs. And with good reason. We've gone through, how many different businesses did we look at? I think it was 7 total. There was Ford, there was Harley, there were a number of others who all said, yeah, we're changing the name. Robbie calling it a victory because they're going to change the name of DEI. And I'm like, wait, he's old enough to remember when it wasn't called that and it was still there. But let's continue. Yet, as head of the school in New York City, I've come to recognize an ironic truth. DEI programs, as traditionally practiced, can be divisive, placing students into rigid roles that can drive them apart instead of bringing them together. I want you to I read through this with Rapunzel. I want you to pay close attention to the verbiage. This is New York Post. Pay close, because this is propaganda. This article is hardcore propaganda. To do what? To undermine the resistance of conservatives to anti-whiteism. And there are several examples in this article of using parallelism to quiet the mind, to reduce the resistance in the mind, the dissonance in the mind, to create harmony by the parallelism. This is genuine hardcore propaganda in this article. To quiet the dissonance in the mind so that you become accepting of this fix to DEI. Now it's fixed. Now we won. Now as conservatives, we won because it's fixed. So listen carefully. Maybe you'll pick up some of these examples, which is why a new approach to diversity is needed. And what does diversity means? White erasure. Diversity hires, diversity fire. Right? One that avoids the polarized dogma that now defines the DEI landscape. So it's not going, you see. They're going to fix it. This is Bill Kuhn. Doesn't look white to me, but he's the principal or dean over there. He's the head of school. At our school, Birch Wathan Lennox. It doesn't sound like one of the schools that I was just talking about. We have embraced a different model, one that prioritizes constructive dialogue, intellectual rigor, and respect for diverse viewpoints. What do I hear right there? I hear that one of the fixes is going to be that non-white children, some of them will be allowed to say that they like freedom of speech, that they like a constitutional republic. That's what I'm hearing as the fix, because the diversity, inclusion, and equity die is remaining somehow. Even though Trump just got to isn't this kind of a neat like bait and switch? Well, us Democrats now, we finally, we've seen the error of our ways. America gave a mandate, electoral college, popular vote. We've seen the error of our ways. Don't worry though, conservative America, we're going to fix it. We're gonna fix it all. Let us fix it all up for you. I mean, if you would believe these shysters, you deserve the outcome that you get. He says, we avoid an identity-based curriculum, except wait, in the rest of the article here, that paints broad swaths of students in a single light. Really? What broad swaths of students? Don't worry, they'll tell you. Instead, we promote a unified community that values diversity of thought and shared principles. What principles? Conventional DEI frameworks are long known for their problematic principles. You see, you guys, you got angry about the problematic principles. Things like all white people are evil. So students are often labeled oppressed, or oppressors. The latter saddled with the burden of dismantling historic injustices. The former implicitly encouraged to view their futures as defined by these same strictures. Ooh, so, okay, well, let's see. The binary view denies any sense of agency. And so white student, you have a sense of agency. Your people are the oppressors, but you can be an anti-white and burn them down. Interesting. Reduces personal growth to predetermined identity categories. Also worrisome, traditional DEI efforts often ignore the long history and continued threat of anti-Semitism. Yeah, you heard me right. They're fixing DEI by eradicating the incipient anti-Jewish sentiment in anti-whiteism. That's how they're fixing it, white race. Now we hear the whole Bible Belt, Judeo-centering, white booby morons, Jew-worshiping morons just cheering. They don't give a how many of their white daughters are raped, how many of all of us are saddled with white guilt and can only find an identity that has any value in covering ourselves in tattoos and piercings and homosexual sex and animal sex and whatever else that's out there, waging war on all the norms of the West. But they're going to end the anti-Jewish sentiment. The impact of traditional classroom DEI programs goes beyond identity categories. DEI in schools can push a single set of ideological views as virtues. Topics like white supremacy culture, which bafflingly paints habits such as punctuality as racist and mandates ethnic affinity groups, separate students despite scant research supporting their effectiveness. So, do you see what's happening there? Anti-whiteism is white erasing things like punctuality, because white people have said, we have said, it is one of our virtues to be on time. It doesn't mean that no non-white group has ever said being on time is a good thing, but it is our virtue to be on time. And as a result, anti-whites and anti-whiteism, by way of that ideology, has been white erasing that norm. Do you understand, cuck morons out there? Punctuality is not universal. It's ours, and it will only continue in our world if we defend it as ours, not some universal thing that black people like as much as we do. Well, you can just look up the Umbapi tribe and they look at what they said about punctuality. They didn't say shit about punctuality, jerk. You've got to defend our virtues as ours, because if you don't, you can be talked out of them. So what's happening to anti-whites? They are suffering the consequences of the white erasure of the white norm called punctuality. And so they're going to, one of the ways they're going to fix DEI is to say to all of the students, no, punctuality is not a white thing. It's an everybody thing. So we don't have to white erase that and continue to suffer teachers not coming on time, janitors not coming on time, students not coming on time. And they're going to be saying that out of one part of their mouth, simultaneously saying out of the other part of their mouth. We see how so many Ashkenazi Jews, since they have light skin like white people, and some of them, their facial features are very similar to white people, are now being included in the evil list of white people, because the physical complexion of anti-whiteism is getting darker and darker. And so we're going to come in and fix this problem to anti-whiteism by saying you're not allowed to be anti-Jewish. Now DEI is all fixed. This is so infuriating. My head is going to blow up. In some cases, academic standards have been lowered. Another example of a white norm that is harming anti-whites and anti-whiteism. It's undermining the ability of these institutions to function by saying we're just going to get rid of all the standards because white people set these standards. How did they get rid of the standards? Because everything that we have created is attacked as retributive justice against white people. That is anti-whiteism. You have to defend it as ours. So they're going to address that problem too. We can't just say we're getting rid of standards, because then we'll turn out anti-whites that are really uneducated, and the rest of the world is going to go by them. America will easily be, the anti-whites here will be undermined. So we've got to address that to fix DEI as well. You will notice there isn't one scant word about white people here. Not a single word. DEI is all about victimizing white people. It's all about white erasing us physically from these institutions, white erasing our norms, white erasing us from the leadership of the country we create, of the civilization we create, white erasing us from the street names, white erasing us from the history books, white erasing us from the public square in the form of statues, in the form of our physical presence. White, and there isn't a single word about white people. Who's to blame? Here comes your fork in the road about interpretation and consequences and outcomes. White people are to blame. We are to blame. But I'm going to make this even starker as I read a little bit further. You're going to like this. We have instead embraced a model that fosters respectful dialogue. Our constructive dialogue program, all caps, for instance, encourages students to engage in open inquiry and debate. They're introduced to a diverse range of perspectives and taught they won't be. Now, imagine this. If we were the white positive ADL, we could reach out to this school and say, hey, have Jason Kuna as a speaker at your school. You want a diverse range of opinions? How about one that says don't victimize white people on the basis of our birth? And then it would be in their court. Are they going to allow me to come speak to their students or not? They're introduced to a diverse range of perspectives and taught to respond with reasoned arguments. Additional courses such as Democracy and Dissent, a history of the Middle East. What? I thought New York was in North America. The history of the Middle East. Okay, so let me just see. They're going to be taught courses to fix DEI They'll be taught courses such as democracy and dissent, history of the Middle East, and, Holocaust and genocide studies. The cure for DEI. And they'll be going through these courses without saddling them with the burden of past wrongs. In other words, Israel is slaughtering a group of people. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. My friends are listening. Israel is waging war on a group of people who don't appear to have, and haven't for a long time. I mean, they had a gang. They had an armed gang that absolutely killed people, and it was wrong, and they should be killed for that, murdering innocent people. But so they had an armed gang, and the armed gang is not really even present, hasn't been for a long time. But Israel seems to still be waging war. But you know what? You're not going to be allowed to bring that up. That's a fix for DEI in America. That you won't be able to saddle them with the burden of that past wrong. To support this approach, our Dean of Curriculum and Academic Freedom ensures that our program remains balanced, intellectually challenged, and inclusive. What do these words mean in the anti-white narrative? It's all anti-whiteism. Balanced is practically a MP today. Intellectually challenging, absolutely used as an MP today. And inclusive, strike them dead if it's not a meme pathogen. Absolutely is a meme pathogen. It means fewer white. That's what inclusive means, further or fewer white people. We further recognize students who encourage thoughtful and respectful and diverse ideas. Again, there's diverse. Through the John Stuart Mill Award for Excellence in Debate and Open Discourse. Here we go, folks. Look at this. We've collaborated with free speech organizations such as the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression and Constructive Dialogue Institute. And while we have teachers, okay, before I go further to the next sentence you're going to love. The next sentence comes right out of Ford's manual, comes right out of Disney's manual, comes right out of so many of these business manuals now in their response to America being upset about anti-white persecution, anti-white discrimination, anti-whiteism. All right? Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, who is helping out this school, a Lennox school, who's helping them out, founded by two Jewish guys. Constructive Dialogue Institute, founded by Jewish people. The guy in charge of Constructive Dialogue Institute, Jewish. The guy in charge of Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, not Jewish, but he wrote a book with the Jewish guy who runs Constructive Dialogue Institute. Here's the real fork in the road. Are what these Jewish people doing and the outcomes that they're achieving, is that what's wrong? No, what's wrong is that white people aren't doing it. That's what's wrong. What's wrong is that you have a white guy here that has given his fucking life to develop something that works, that puts our people, our children ahead of himself, not his aggrandizement, not his enrichment, that opens the doors and says, without hubris, every smart white person can come in here, can take up this lexicon, can contribute to it, will submit it to the scientific method. If it works, it gets included. They get celebrated by whatever name they want to be known. We have a white guy doing that. We have a white community doing that, but there aren't white people showing up to support it. Like there are Jewish people showing up to support these foundations. So the problem is your white ass. You fucking losers. That's the problem. Take the hard pill. That's the problem. You've got a solution. You ain't showing up here. You make somebody like a Nick Fuentes a millionaire. You make all of these others, you give them all of the attention, all of the aggrandizement. You can't stop talking about them. And you know what? More power to them. I always have said it. Let them make all the money in the world. Let them get all of the attention and all of the sex and whatever else they want. Let them get all of that in the world. I don't stand in anybody's way, deny anybody's right or attempt or outcome of achieving those things for themselves, because it's a waste of my fucking time to think about it. What I care about is our people. And when these motherfuckers are getting in the way of our people ending our victimization, no one else on earth has more of a history of proof of doing exactly that, standing up for our people without putting himself first, than I do. Not a single fucking ounce of respect for that. Not a single ounce of respect. What does the twink say again now? What is the twink saying now? How many other jokes can be made about white women and their voting and how tired? You're going to make white women illegal now, says Elijah. That is how far these tired jokes have been dragged. No actual substance. Just what will shock the audience this time. Nobody else. You have a community here that has come together, like the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, like the Constructive Dialogue Institute, who were saying to themselves, those people were saying to themselves, what can we do for the Jewish kids? And that is beautiful that they would do that. And then, and saying as a consequence of what they do for the Jewish kids, more broadly, helping out the other ones at the school. They're not going to fight for us, obviously. And we shouldn't expect them to. And if you say in your head, like we had one guy under the thread of one of the videos saying, well, the Jews don't allow us. If you say the Jews don't allow us, turn off the switch. You know what I mean? Turn off the switch. You are no man of the West. You are a cowardly dog. They won't allow us. Good. You've just outed yourself. Get the fuck out. There are no adults left. There are no heroes left. We are a race of cowardly bitches, of ingrates, of insufferable tards that think they can just keep coming with their dumbass opinions and suggestions to what it shows everywhere to work. I hear what you say, but how about you fuck off? Sorry for my language. But this is exactly what I'm talking about. Look at the outcome for the Jewish kids at this school. For the work of these Jewish people. Not only could they found one entity for that purpose, they've got two. And now they're both hired by Kuhn at this Dr. Kuhn, principal of this school, to come in there and make sure that there isn't going to be any anti-Jewish thought. Wouldn't that be nice if white people had enough value to come together behind what works so that we could be hired at the school, so that we could show up and make sure there isn't any anti-whiteism for the white kiddies? Wouldn't that be nice? But no. Just go shadow haunt some more Jews, you cowardly, small-dicked losers. Here's the rest of the sentence. And this is taking a page right out of Ford and everywhere else. And while we will have teachers who will oversee diversity and inclusion work, i.e. anti-whiteism, while we will have teachers who will oversee anti-whiteism, we do not employ a formalized DEI officer. Robbie, I guess you won. I guess you're right. I guess everything's better now, Robbie. I guess it's all better because Lennox isn't going to have a position that is called a formalized DEI officer. Oh, they're still going to be applying anti-whiteism, Robbie, but you won. You won because they are not going to name it that. Oh, boy. But yeah, keep ignoring us on Twitter. Keep downplaying, keep suffocating, keep ignoring. We're right again, Robbie. We're right again. And you could do the right thing and say, holy shit, the no white guilt guy was right. They're just changing the name. It's actually anti-whiteism. But you're not going to do that. Is it because you think that you're not white enough as a Puerto Rican? You don't want to talk about anti-white? I mean, what is the problem? There you have it. Guess you won. Conservatives, you won. While they still are going to have teachers who oversee anti-whiteism work at the school, they are not going to call them a formalized DEI officer. You won, conservatives. Everything is better now. I'm sorry, I'm pissed off. Our commitment to revisiting and revising. Now, here is some of that parallelism. You can go through this article and find this. This is propaganda to lull the conservative into a sense of success, into a sense of victory. This is deep propaganda. This is deep manipulation. Our commitment to revising, to revisiting and revising. And if you read this at pace, you'll feel it come over you. The harmony of the parallelism. DEI policies do not mean we ignore tragic histories or current injustices. Do you hear that? DEI, while we are revisiting and revising DEI policies, it does not mean that we ignore tragic histories or current injustices. Anti-whiteism, how the white race is evil. We're not going to forget we told you in this article what has to go. We can't get rid of all of the standards for the educating, and you've got to come to class on time, and you can't be anti-Jewish. Everything else remains the same. Parent feedback at Birch, Wathan, Lennox has been overwhelmingly positive. Families appreciate our commitment to free expression and constructive dialogue, particularly our stance on addressing the recent rise of anti-Semitism. Jewish people are awesome for this. They're not awful for this. There's an A word. It's not awful. It's awesome. And I want you also to note, for all of you assholes out there that continue to, well, that really handsome guy that is really good at sex came up with the anti-whiteism as one word and has been pushing that and been arguing in many different cases. But I'm still, if I use anti-whiteism, I'm going to put that hyphen in there because fuck him. I want you to note, anti-Semitism got rid of their hyphen. This white man, with my nosebleed IQ, nosebleed high IQ, figured out that anti-white without the hyphen and anti-whiteism without the hyphen was superior for all the ways I've talked about and outlined before, so that we could not be undermined later. And it took the Jewish World Congress or Federation or whatever it is, several big Jewish bodies of brilliant Jews to finally figure out that the hyphen had to go. And a handful of years ago, they were like, you know what? That white guy was right about anti-whiteism. We're getting rid of the hyphen too. Still. How much you want to bet if Keith Woods uses anti-whiteism, if he's ever used it, it has the hyphen in it? Or anti-white, it has the hyphen. How much you want to bet? It's all just the jealousy of yours truly. It's all just deep. All of this is such deep me not jealousy.